Vibrant Life, episode 57. My name is Jessica Parker. I'm a holistic health coach with a master's in health psychology and a fitness instructor. And today is April 5th, 2023. It's a Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. We're going to be talking about daily toxins, why they matter, and where to even start with kind of tackling that whole thing, because I think it can be a little overwhelming. So first of all, what are toxins? I think people hear toxins and they think like, hazmat. They think big, bad, hairy, scary, but they're around us all the time, every day, and more than ever. And that's why I'm talking about it, because it's so, so important. And we're sort of fighting an uphill battle, but it doesn't have to be that way. So toxins come in the form of physical, mental, emotional, and chemical. So the mental, emotional is kind of obvious. It's stuff that when you hear the word stress, it's what everybody thinks of. You're fighting with somebody, you're, in a job you hate. Maybe you're just so busy you can't catch a breath. Those are like the quote regular stressors that we deal with. Of course, there are variations, kind of your like chronic stress or your acute stress where maybe somebody dies, or maybe, you get in a car accident and that's a major, well, that's several kinds of stress, but that's your more acute kind of stress. So today we are kind of talking more of that chronic, the like kind of low level that builds up. So that's your emotional, mental, and then we have chemical, which comes in the form of food. It comes in the form of medications. It comes in the form of anything that's like entering your bloodstream. And that even means things you put on your body that seeps in through your skin directly into your bloodstream. It happens. And so that's why we have to pay attention to ingredients and things that are on our body, but also that we breathe in to our body. So that's the chemical component. But, when I say food, I mean like sugar, processed food. I don't believe people should be eating gluten. And that's because of, mostly in my opinion, the glyphosate which is Roundup, which is in everything, all of our crops. You have to be very careful about what you eat, what you purchase, things like that to avoid that. And so food is its whole own thing, but it's all under the umbrella of chemical. And then we have physical, where you could have some kind of infection that you're fighting. You could have been, like I said, the car accident. So you have the physical piece of that stress. It's not enough exercise or it's too much exercise. There are so many different variations again. And again, that will depend on where you are at. So when I say where you're at, so we all have this like bucket. Your level of stress, like wherever it's at, means that if you add any more, it's going to raise that level. Your body doesn't decipher between any of the kinds of stress. So if your bucket is really full and then you just add a workout, it might like throw you over, right? So it could be a good stress, like I said, exercise. But if you're like so overwhelmed, like I'll have clients who are dealing with so much where I'm like, I don't want you to add that right now. If you want to consider something like walking, that would actually be way more beneficial. So you're not adding this huge stress. For example, that's just an example. So we have what stress is, different kinds. And then we distinguish between like chronic, low level, and then acute, where we have a major stress event and it's kind of there and then we deal with it hopefully, and it's not there for too long. So that's what stress is. Now, let's just dive into the daily toxins. Nowadays, we are inundated from the time we get up to the time we go to bed. It's a 24-hour thing, and it, we're always going to have toxins around us, but now it's just so chronic. It is so chronic. So you are sleeping in your bed, you've been using, the regular conventional like laundry detergents and dryer sheets, things like that. That stuff is on your skin and you're breathing it in. So it's going right into your bloodstream, into your respiratory system. So that's one area. And then you wake up and you go to take a shower and you have your conventional shampoos, body wash, all the things in there. And then you get out and you might put certain things on your body with fragrances. The word fragrance can mean thousands of different chemical components that we have no idea, and can really disrupt your hormones, add to inflammation, lead to autoimmune, like so many different things, even mental health stuff, because that all stems from inflammation. Then you know, maybe put some makeup on. There's a whole nother source of toxins. And then you go out and you like, maybe you make yourself some coffee and you put some junk creamer in your coffee. There's another source. Maybe you stop and get like McDonald's. There's another source. So you're just constantly like filling that bucket every single day. And then you might already have a bunch of stress depending on, you know, maybe you have some like mold in your home you don't know about. Maybe you have like a relationship that's really difficult or a job you're going to that you don't love. That's where, you know, you're always looking at this bucket that you have and how much stress, and we always have to manage it. So there are two parts to managing toxins. First of all, again, like I said, is removing. I try really hard to stay away from toxins, especially because I do deal with mercury toxicity. And so I already have a very full bucket because of that. Things like mercury take up a lot of space in your stress bucket. I pay very close attention to the ingredients in my makeup and skincare and the cleaning supplies that I use and the food that I eat. I am not on any medications. I pay attention to ingredients even in supplements. You know, I don't use fragrances. I use essential oils that are high quality. There are all these different little like offshoots that we really need to pay attention to. Do not let it overwhelm you. You start small. And so there are two apps that are good, the EWG app and the Think Dirty app. You can have both of them on your phone. I honestly think Dirty is better these days. I feel like EWG, you know, there are some things that I don't necessarily agree with on there in terms of they're definitely more like plant-based. I don't agree with that. We'll just say that one right out loud. And then certain companies there's a whole system where they can like buy their certification, like EWG, like stamp of approval. And I'm not sure that I agree with that. So I actually don't have it on my phone anymore, but I will reference it. So they are still really good about like specific ingredients. So I will look something up on my computer if I'm wanting to dive into ingredients versus having that app on my phone. I do have the Think Dirty app on my phone, which is really wonderful because if you're at the store, you can scan products and it rates them. The EWG app has that as well. It rates them, and then you can click on it and it will come up with, this is a breakdown. These are the ingredients and each ingredient is rated, and then that gives us our overall score. So you don't have to be a snob like me. You can have the EWG app on your phone. In fact, sometimes like I do like to still compare them and get some better information. And truth be told, sometimes there's a product that's on one of the apps and not the other. But the cool thing is you can always submit a product. So if you scan something and it's not in there, it'll ask you to take a picture of it, of like the ingredients. It's very quick. It's a very quick process, and you get an alert when it's actually loaded into the system. So that is a really cool thing that we have tools like that, because you don't have to like know all the ingredients. There are hundreds of thousands, millions, I don't know how many, like so many ingredients. We don't do a very good job in the US of regulating things like that. I'm sure y'all know. Other countries, there are so many things that are banned over there. And that's one reason when I said glyphosate and gluten, you know, people from here can go overseas and like have gluten, whereas over here they might react like terribly, but then they can go, you know, over to France or somewhere and eat all the gluten they want, and they're like, I don't react. And dairy can be the same for people as well. And I believe it's because of the glyphosate. There's also a lot of differences in how things are processed, but I think the bottom line is the glyphosate. It's a gut destroyer. It destroys our gut lining, and then, you know, protein particles from food get into our bloodstream and we become sensitive to a lot of things. Causes lots of inflammation. So there's a little snapshot of that. Okay, so in a nutshell, there are a lot of things that we allow in all of our products, food or otherwise, in the US that are not allowed in other countries. And I will zip my mouth on that one. That's why it's so great that we have these tools so that we can actually vet different products and decide what we're going to allow and what we're not. So let's talk about the natural detox system. And I'm going to give you a tip for each one of these. So liver, kidneys, digestive tract, lymphatic system, respiratory system, and skin. So those are the organs that are responsible for our natural detoxing protocol that happens all the time, every day, and you don't even know it. Liver, kidneys, digestive tract, lymphatic system, respiratory system, and skin. So the liver, this is huge. This is huge. I mean, as a health coach, I see people more and more who have fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And it's really, what's going on is the liver is overloaded. It's such an integral part of detoxing the system. It's filtering all this garbage constantly. And I'm talking medications. I mean, if you're on several medications, your liver has to process those. Sugar, high processed food, lots and lots of carbs, then your blood sugar and your insulin are going to be spiked and your liver is going to be in distress. Obviously heavy metals, just all of these things that we're inundating our bodies with, our liver is working extra hard. So with the liver, I mean, the first thing is that removing the source. So it's really important to keep blood sugar stable, insulin, get the junk food out. Be mindful of alcohol. I really go for organic. The organic is minus all the pesticides and garbage, and usually lower in sugar. If you go for biodynamic, that's a really good option. Go for wines that are not from here because again, they don't use everything, all the garbage that we use. Those are some things to do. I take some digestive enzymes that are really great for your liver as well as gallbladder. Our digestive enzymes naturally decline as we age, so it's not a bad idea for most people to use them. Here's what I use. And I think it's in my Amazon store if you go look, I think. There are some really great things in here that not only help support the liver, but also, there's HCl. So typically when somebody is put on a proton pump inhibitor, it is to reduce acid. Well, when you are having things like gastrointestinal stuff, heartburn, it's actually a problem of low acid. And so HCl will help that. And that's something that is often related even with thyroid stuff. But I'm going to just kind of like segue into kidney stuff because proton pump inhibitors are really putting you at high risk for kidney disease. I will actually link some information below on that, but rather than, always going for the medication, I'm not saying that it's never necessary, but rather than that being the first thing, let's think about what's going on and how we can support the body instead. So maybe there are foods that you're sensitive to, that your body's reacting to, in terms of any kind of acid issues, but also doing some apple cider vinegar, or again, HCl is super, super helpful. Really fixing the gut. This stuff also the super enzymes also has ox bile, which is really supportive of your gallbladder. So that's one thing I hear a lot of people, well, I don't have one anymore, ox bile. It's crazy to me how often I hear that, and then they're not told, well, perhaps you could take this to support your digestive system still, even though you don't have a gallbladder. It's still important. It's still, that your body processes through food and fats and all that correctly. So this has been something that I love. I have mercury toxicity, which is something that can put stress on the liver. And so it's something that I specifically use because of that. There are times when, mercury might move around a little bit, and I can feel when that's happening, and my liver sometimes doesn't like that. And this is another one, these licorice enzymes. I use these, and they're just little tablets that you chew on. So hopefully you like black licorice like I do. But they can be really great for like an immediate soothing effect. And then I like to drink licorice tea, also organic. Again, you kind of have to like black licorice, which I do, but those natural enzymes in the licorice are really good for your digestive system and your liver in particular. Obviously, drink water, but also electrolytes. It's really important to have enough magnesium, potassium, sodium, and those ratios really matter a lot. So people think water, yes, but also your electrolytes, and they help everything, your digestive system, everything. Magnesium is so great for your liver. So I do have some episodes on electrolytes, but also I go into separately magnesium, potassium, and sodium. So go search those up if you want to know a little bit more. Moving on, the digestive tract. Once again, the first thing I do or I go to is gluten. I would recommend, if you're in the US, like, remove it. I don't even have strong reactions to it, but I just know what it is doing to the gut lining, and I actually feel less inflamed, like that systemic inflammation, when I'm staying away from it, which I just do. I just don't even, I'm more like keto carnivore and I feel really good off of it. But you're just putting poison into your body with it because of the glyphosate. If you're not going to the bathroom regularly, that is a problem too. So, people like to say fiber, fiber, fiber. Sure, fiber, but having enough magnesium is a super, super important component of your lifestyle that a lot of people are not doing. And with magnesium, I will say, do not use oxide because it is crappy. Your body doesn't absorb it very well. So if you are having bathroom issues, if you're constipated, then you need to go for something like a magnesium citrate. Some other really great ones in general are a malate or a glycinate. Those are highly absorbable. There's a threonate, which is kind of a mixture. You can find blends, but also just play around with them. And it depends on what you're kind of wanting it for. I get restless leg syndrome. I have ever since I had my son, ever since I was pregnant. Not every night, but when I take something like a magnesium malate or glycinate, it goes away very fast, like within probably like 15, 20 minutes, and super helpful. So that can be part of why that's even happening. We burn through our electrolytes really fast, especially if we're dealing with toxicity. If you're feeling like your body has a lot that it's detoxing or needs to, then you really need to be paying attention to your electrolytes. And if you're not sleeping well, magnesium can really help. It's the calming mineral. So sleep is a part of detoxing as well. Like, your body has to be able to go through those processes as you sleep. So digestive tract, if you're not going to the bathroom and eliminating those toxins, you need to pay attention to that. So magnesium is my first go-to. Lymphatic system. So our lymphatic system is all over, and your lymph fluids do not move on their own. They're not being pumped through your body like our blood is. And so that's why the number one thing I'm going to say is exercise. Get those fluids going. One reason, I love my class for many reasons, but I teach soul fusion. And if you do anything like yoga or anything, where you're like moving your arms up and you're getting the lymphatic fluids flowing everywhere. Whereas you might not be doing that daily. You're sitting at a desk, you're driving a lot, you're just sitting a lot. Even if you walk, that's great, but you need to also add movement to your upper body. Even if you do like some sun salutations, forward fold, down dog, like all those things, you're just getting everything flowing. You don't have to do anything fancy. There are things like dry brushing. There's some really good things out there, and there's a couple doctors I started following who are basically lymphatic specialists, and I will dive into that later on a later episode. I think it's so important, and it's so interesting. But these are some things that you can just do now, like exercise. Remember to move your upper body, and that may be swimming, something like that, getting everything flowing. And then you can do things like dry brushing. Respiratory system. Another exercise, get the blood flowing, get your lungs moving, breathe real deep in and out. We often just breathe really shallow and don't get things really, really moving like deep into our lungs. And that was one thing that was really important, like with COVID, right? You have to get things moving throughout your lungs and not just in the upper section. Things can kind of like hang out, and we don't want them to. Something that I have loved is, in my town, there is a halotherapy booth at Mesmerize Boutique, which is super cute. I love it. So halotherapy is pink Himalayan salt, and basically there's a little machine and it spurts out like fine, like ground salt. And you sit in there, it looks like a sauna, but it's not. So it doesn't have the heat element to it, but you sit in there and it spurts it out kind of like periodically, so it's not just the whole time, and it's real light, but you breathe and real deep, and you can actually kind of taste it in the air. Salt attracts toxins and removes it, so that's something to where if you feel like you have any kind of respiratory stuff, or maybe you have allergies, or maybe you're just wanting to have that protective mechanism like built in where you're just wanting to have a healthy respiratory system and you want to be a step ahead of the game and have that prevention. It's so good for you. It's good for the skin. It's really good for like helping to detox that respiratory system and help move things through. So if you have a lot of stuff that you feel like you've been kind of inundated with in general and you're wanting to support like all of your systems, that's a really good thing to do. If you have been exposed to something like, some kind of air thing, maybe like we had fires. We've had a lot of fires the last couple of summers. That's something that I would do. This is also something that I purchased when I had COVID. I purchased this, and it's a pink Himalayan salt inhaler. So there's salt in it, and you just so in through the mouth and then out through the nose. And you have to, I'll sit here while I'm like working at my computer or watching something or whatever and do it for like at least 20 minutes. And you're taking real deep breaths in and then out through the nose. And I feel a big difference. That is something that I love, but it is not the same as the Halo Booth. But it's the next best thing in my opinion. So respiratory system, if nothing else, get outside, get your heart pumping, breathe. Open the windows. We tend to like keep our windows all shut during the winter and things like that. And you really need to circulate that air. You really, really do. And then skin. So again, the things we put on our skin go straight into our bloodstream. And so be very mindful of what you're putting on your skin. Use those apps I told you about. I make tallow body butter, and that's the only thing that I put on my skin in terms of any kind of lotion or anything. It's just tallow that I've purified from grass-fed beef, and then almond oil, and then essential oils, and that's all it is. My skin loves it. It is more like your skin at a cellular level than any kind of plant-based thing. I've had lots of people tell me, oh my gosh, like I had this little rash or weird thing or whatever, and now I don't. And I've said this before, but it's not magic. It's just because it's more nourishing since it is like our skin at a cellular level. So be really mindful of what you're putting on your body, even just using coconut oil or something. You don't need the Bath and Body stuff. Sorry, highly toxic. You don't need that. I can't even stand being around that stuff anymore. And that includes like body wash and stuff like that. I have a charcoal bar that I use, and that's it. It's pretty simple. And when you think like, oh my gosh, I have to change all this up and like think money or whatever, well, you're probably going to save money, really. And you don't have to do it all at once. Do it, like, oh, I just ran out of my shampoo. I'm going to switch that out. Ran out of my laundry detergent. I'm going to switch that out. That's fine. Do it one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself and don't break the bank. So in terms of releasing things from your skin, guess what I'm going to say? Exercise, sweat, but you can also do like a sauna, whether it's infrared, near infrared, or you can do any kind of sauna you want. I prefer doing like near infrared and where it's going to penetrate deeper, but also just sweating is really, really great. I also do Epsom salt baths all the time. I take an Epsom salt bath after every class that I teach. The Epsom salt is giving you magnesium, and it's also helping detox your body. So when you do that, do a good like 2 cups and stay in there for 20 plus minutes at minimum. So there you have it. So we talked about the fact that you have to remove the source of that toxin. So whether that's trying to manage the source of your emotional, mental stress, the chemical stress, which could be food, it could be medications. Maybe you need to take another look at that. Maybe it's, like me, I have mercury from my amalgams that I'm actually doing a protocol where I am removing that now. Maybe it's mold in your home or something. You need to remove it, and then you need to go through a protocol to get it out of your system. So there's always the removing the source, but then, you have to get it out of your body and support your body while you do it. And then we have physical. So, some of the most common ones I see are really stemming around exercise. Big shock, right? Either not exercising enough or exercising too much. So that only you really can know. If you exercise and your body is like tanked. It takes a couple of days to recover. And, you know, you just feel exhausted from the core, you know, that's a sign that your body has too much. Your stress bucket is too full. So dial it back. You know, I know sometimes it's hard because if you're exercising too much, you're probably one of those people that just falls to the wall and, you know, feels like you need to. So reevaluate that, allow your body to take some time, do something different. You know, I used to running used to be part of my identity, literally. Like I couldn't even imagine not. And then dealing with some high level stress and the mercury toxicity kind of took that away from me. It honestly wasn't hard when it did because my body was under so much stress. It just kind of like, I needed to, and I didn't even really think about it. I just kind of like stopped. But now I do other things, like I hike all the time and I teach my classes, they are intense, but they're not the high impact, overly intense like running was for me, especially because I get competitive with myself. But so you just shift, you downshift, you learn to do things that are nourishing to your body, offering that healthy amount of stress without pushing you over so that your body just goes into protect mode and can't deal with anything else. And then we talked about the natural detox system. So liver, kidneys, digestive tract, lymphatic system, respiratory system, and skin. So I'm keeping it really simple, you know, and just really, again, thinking about removing whatever it is, and then how can you support that natural system. I'm not a big fan of cleanses and things like that. I think there's a lot of garbage out there. And a lot of times we think, oh, you know, these like stars come out and we're just like mesmerized by it and it sounds so fancy. It's gonna just be the ticket to whatever. But we're still using the junk that got us to where we got, that added to our stress bucket. We haven't changed the things that need to change, you know, and those cleanses are like a one and done. And yet, are you supporting your natural detox system on the daily? Those things matter most. So shelf the whole cleanse thing or toss it. And let's start with the daily kind of stuff that we can do and changing up our lifestyle so our bodies don't have to fight so hard against what we're doing to them. All right, you guys, you can find me at thatvibrantlife.com, Facebook, thatvibrantlife, and Instagram, that_vibrantlife. And if you're interested in any tallow body butter, I do ship. And you can find it below at my Etsy store, and you can get 10% off podcast 10. It'll be linked below. But anyway, you guys have a great day. Thank you for hanging out with me.